Good evening. It's Monday the 13th of July 2026.
Tonight on the Nightly Business Report.
Crude Awakening. Global crude prices surge even further following fresh escalations between the U.S. and Iran.
850 million rupee theft. Treasury Secretary Dr. Harshana Sooriyapperuma says the government will use its funds to meet the $2.5 million of debt repayment if the funds lost in the cyber theft are not recovered.
Who is in charge of the email server that all this happened?
Re-ceping the benefits. Australia's High Commissioner reaffirms support for Sri Lanka to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, urging to continue strengthening competitiveness and integration into regional supply chains.
The work that Australia is doing to support Sri Lanka to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership.
And weaker numbers. The latest central bank data reveals dip in external sector performance in June compared to May of this year, posing a slight economic shakeup in months to come.
From Studio 24C, this is the Nightly Business Report with Sanuvi Mulanayaka and Vinuthwarna Surya.
Thank you for joining us on the Nightly Business Report.
The escalating conflict between the United States and Iran has intensified concerns over global energy markets after both countries exchanged strikes over the weekend.
The tensions pushed oil prices high and renewed fears over potential disruptions to the shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a vital route for global oil and gas supplies.
Renewed fighting between the U.S. and Iran has oil prices on the up again. The weekend saw a fresh cycle of attacks and counterattacks. Tehran extended strikes on Qatar and the UAE, while the US launched further hits on Iran. That saw international benchmark Brent crude jump around 4% by early afternoon Monday in Asia. There were similar gains for US crude prices. All eyes are on what happens now in the Strait of Hormuz. It used to carry 1/5 of the world's oil and gas shipments before the war began. On Sunday, US President Donald Trump said the key waterway was open to commercial traffic. However, Iran said earlier that it had closed the strait after a vessel used an unapproved route and was struck. Data from ship tracking service Kepler showed 6 vessels transiting the area on Sunday, the lowest number in 5 weeks. The US military said a route near Oman was still available for two-way traffic despite security threats. One analyst told Reuters the relatively modest price increases so far suggest traders still think this is a temporary flare-up, rather than a complete collapse of the ceasefire between the US and Iran.
Treasury Secretary Dr. Harshana Sooriyapperuma has said that the government will use its funds to meet the $2.5 million of debt repayment to Australia if the funds lost in the cyber theft are not recovered.
Dr. Sooriyapperuma said this at the recently held Committee on Public Finance meeting.
It was found earlier this year that cyber criminals have stolen $2.5 million from the Treasury meant for a payment to be made to Australia as part of its debt servicing obligations. The cyber criminals have breached an email system used by the officials to commit the fraud. In 2023, the basic guidelines for the improvement of the system had been issued. However, the process has not been implemented.
I'm asking a serious question. Who is in charge of the email server that all this happened? Yes. DG, ERD, DG, PDMO, all these people are using a particular email server which CERT is saying was out of date and end of life. It has died in the middle of October 2025. You're using a dead body. Now, who was in charge of that?
Initially, because we didn't have any network or any email system or software and even the space. So we acquired some of the space from ERD and their system, and we used their email system, and also their IT officer was supporting us on active basis. So still we haven't procured our own server. Procurement process is ongoing.
You haven't procured your own server. You have been hacked mercilessly.
A 31-member business delegation from India, led by the Federation of India Exports Organizations, concluded a 3-day visit to Sri Lanka, aimed at strengthening bilateral trade and expanding business partnerships.
The delegation, representing a wide range of sectors including pharmaceuticals, engineering, apparel, food, agriculture and infrastructure, explored new investment and export opportunities during its visit.
During the visit, the delegation met with Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, who highlighted the growing economic partnership between the two countries and the potential to expand trade and investment. The delegation also held discussions with Sri Lanka's Trade Ministry and several local business organizations to explore sector-specific collaboration and establish new commercial linkages. The Indian High Commission hosted the India-Sri Lanka Trade Connect event in Colombo, bringing together Indian and Sri Lankan businesses for business-to-business meetings. Addressing the forum, High Commissioner Jha said India remains Sri Lanka's largest trading partner, biggest foreign investor and leading source of tourist arrivals. He noted that bilateral merchandise trade reached approximately $7.2 billion in 2025 to 26, while Sri Lanka's exports to India have grown by nearly 160% over the past 5 years. The visit also marked the formal exchange of an MOU between FIEO and the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka to strengthen trade, investment, business networking and economic cooperation.
The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce officially launched ScaleUp 2.0, its national SME forum for 2026, which will take place on the 11th of August 2026 at the Taj Samudra, Colombo, under the theme Connected, Competitive, Ready to Grow. Meanwhile, the Chamber has also met Belarusian Ambassador Mikhail Kasko to discuss how closer private sector ties could lead to more trade opportunities between the two countries.
The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce has held discussions with Belarusian Ambassador Mikhail Kasko on strengthening bilateral trade and investment between Sri Lanka and the Belarus. The meeting focused on expanding private sector collaboration and identifying new business opportunities in both markets. Officials discussed ways to enhance commercial partnerships and encourage greater engagement between businesses in the two countries. The Chamber reaffirmed its commitment to promoting trade and facilitating stronger business-to-business connections. Ambassador Kasko highlighted the potential for increased economic cooperation across several sectors. Both sides also explored opportunities to boost investment and expand bilateral trade. The discussions reflected shared commitment to deepening economic ties and fostering long-term commercial cooperation.
Australia has reaffirmed its support for Sri Lanka's ambition to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, with High Commissioner Matthew Duckworth urging the country to continue pursuing trade reforms and digitalization to strengthen its competitiveness and integration into regional supply chains.
Addressing the 60th anniversary celebrations and the 56th annual general meeting of the Sri Lanka Shippers Council recently, Duckworth said Australia strongly supports Sri Lanka's efforts to become a member of the world's largest free trade agreement, describing it as a key component of the Indo-Pacific's economic architecture.
Matthew Duckworth said the RCEP is more than a conventional trade agreement, bringing together 15 economies across Southeast Asia, North Asia, and the Pacific to facilitate trade, investment, and regional economic integration. The event underscored the Sri Lanka Shippers Council's continued role in promoting trade, enhancing logistics, and supporting the country's economic growth.
Doing to support Sri Lanka with its ambition to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. This is not just a trade agreement. This is a piece of economic architecture that poses to stand and bind together the regions of the Indo-Pacific. It already brings together 15 nations from around the Pacific, from around Southeast Asia, from Australia and from North Asia. And Australia is strongly supporting extending that reach further to right here in the Indian Ocean. The RCEP supports regional supply chains. It supports more simplified border requirements and processes. It supports lower customs duties. At the end of the day, it supports more trade. Now again, I have no...
Meanwhile, Trisherman Frink was re-elected as chairman of the Sri Lanka Shippers Council for a second consecutive term, while Deputy General Manager at Haley's Group, Nalaka Ratnayaka, was elected as the first vice chairman and group head of logistics at Brandix. Ushanda Silva elected as the second vice chairman. Addressing the gathering, the chairman of Sri Lanka Shippers Council says they actively engage with the Asian Shippers Alliance and the Global Shippers Alliance to strengthen cooperation.
Sri Lanka Shippers Council actively participated in the meeting of Asian Shippers Alliance and Global Shippers Alliance, strengthening our relationship with Shippers Council from across Asia, Europe, Australia and North America. This partnership provides valuable opportunities to exchange knowledge, understand emerging global trends, and ensure that the concerns of Sri Lankan shippers are represented at the international level.
The Environment Ministry today launched a $38.2 million project supported by the Global Environment Facility and the United Nations Development Programme to strengthen Sri Lanka's chemical, mercury and healthcare waste management systems.
The project also included the handover of advanced laboratory equipment to key institutions to enhance the country's capacity to monitor hazardous chemicals and protect the environment. Speaking at the event, Deputy Minister of Environment Anton Jayakodi expressed appreciation for the international support received for environmental conservation. The 5-year initiative running from 2024 to 2029 is funded through a $5.04 million GEF grant and $33.16 million in co-financing. The project aims to phase out mercury-containing medical devices, improve the management of hazardous chemicals, and reduce pollution from healthcare waste. Memorandums of understanding were also signed with beneficiary institutions to support the implementation and long-term sustainability of the project.
We're heading into a short commercial break. More business updates right after this.
This is a Nightly Business Report.
Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report.
Tax experts at EY Sri Lanka have cautioned that Sri Lanka's proposed framework to tax digital services could inadvertently raise compliance costs for multinational companies and make the country a more complex market to serve unless authorities provide greater clarity on new rules.
One of the biggest concerns is that the current wording of the framework could potentially bring a much wider range of businesses into the tax net than intended. While the framework appears designed to target online marketplaces and digital intermediaries, companies providing services through websites, applications and other digital interfaces could also find themselves subject to registration and reporting obligations.
The analysts warned that multinational firms operating across numerous jurisdictions already face extensive indirect tax compliance requirements, and any uncertainty over Sri Lanka's rules could add to administrative burdens and cost. Tax consultant at EY Shehani Paranavithana says the new framework does not carry sufficient clarity for taxpayers to determine whether they are within the scope of the rules, what the obligations are, and how they are expected to comply. She further notes that Sri Lanka has a lot of multinational companies working and they are operating on their own platforms, which is run by their parent company. And if these companies are subjected to tax, it would increase the cost of doing business in Sri Lanka.
Are subjected to tax, most of the parent companies or multinationals will also have compliance obligations here. That will increase the cost of doing business in Sri Lanka. One is they might have to pay the tax. Even if they don't have to pay this digital tax, they will have a compliance obligation of having to file returns. So the burden is increasing, and this could potentially deter multinationals, one from entering the country, or even the multinationals who are operating it here will have an increased administrative burden. I don't think it was the intention of the policymaker to bring into the net multinationals such as this who are not really platform digital service providers, but the way the law is drafted, it is unclear. There is room for ambiguity, there is room for misinterpretation. And so it is very important for these matters to be clarified. It's important for the Finance Ministry or the Inland Revenue Department to issue clear guidelines on the applications in who is liable for this digital tax and who is not liable.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's digital regulatory reforms have gained international recognition at the World Summit on the Information Society held in Geneva, Switzerland. Representing Sri Lanka at the Global Regulators Dialogue, Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission of Sri Lanka, Air Vice Marshal Badulla Herath, highlighted the country's ongoing regulatory reforms aimed at building a trusted, inclusive and globally competitive digital economy under the National Digital Economy Strategy 2030. He outlined key initiatives including transparent radio spectrum auction, rules to strengthen investor confidence, infrastructure sharing regulations to expand connectivity in rural and underserved areas, and enhance quality of service standards to improve consumer protection and operator accountability.
According to the latest central bank data, Sri Lanka's external sector showed mixed signals in June, with declines in worker remittances, tourism earnings and official reserves.
Workers' remittances fell 21.8% month-on-month to $695 million in June, down from $847 million in May. Despite the monthly drop, cumulative remittances for the first 6 months of 2026 rose 23.2% year-on-year to $4.6 billion.
June had seen a decrease of $152 million in worker remittances in comparison to the previous month. Central bank data further shows that the cumulative remittances sent to the country by migrant workers from January to June 2026 amounted to $4.6 billion, a 23.2% increase compared to the corresponding period in the previous year. Tourism earnings also weakened. Revenue fell to $151.1 million in June from $155.7 million in May, while first-half tourism income declined 11.7% year-on-year to $1.51 billion, compared with $1.71 billion during the same period last year. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's gross official reserves declined 6.9% in June, falling by $431 million to $6.45 billion. Foreign currency reserves dropped to $6.25 billion, while gold holdings eased to $191 million. The central bank also estimated $2.15 billion in short-term net foreign currency outflows from reserves and reported outstanding foreign currency forward and swap positions of $4.04 billion, noting that a substantial portion is expected to be rolled over.
National Insurance Trust Fund urges the members of Agrahara Insurance Scheme to update their personal details in the database. Public servants who are in the active service are urged to do so. The NITF announced that the deadline to update the data has been extended to the 31st of this month.
It means with effect from the 1st of August, Agrahara insurance claims will be processed and paid only for members and dependents whose details have been duly registered and updated in the database system. The NITF official said that it receives up to 22,000 to 25,000 insurance claim applications in a single month. However, due to discrepancies in the details provided, only 18,000 to 19,000 claims could be processed. The NITF warns that services of the Agrahara will be digitalized very soon, and those who do not update their data will not be able to process their claims.
Sri Lanka has been ranked the world's third most traffic congested country according to Numbio's Traffic Index by Country 2026 mid-year.
Sri Lanka recorded a traffic index score of 254.5, behind only Nigeria and Costa Rica.
Nigeria topped the global ranking with a score of 320.3, while countries including Bangladesh, Kenya, Egypt, Peru, Iran, India and Colombia were among the world's 10 most congested nations. The index measures traffic conditions based on factors such as average commute times, traffic inefficiency, fuel consumption and carbon dioxide emissions. The report also evaluates commute experiences through indicators including the time index, which measures average travel duration, and the inefficiency index, which reflects effectiveness of transport systems and reliance on private vehicles. High scores indicate more severe congestion and greater challenges for daily commuters. The ranking highlights Sri Lanka's growing urban transport pressures and the need for improved public transport solutions and traffic management strategies.
Sri Lanka police has warned motorists about fraudulent SMS and WhatsApp messages instructing them to pay traffic fines through suspicious online links. The fake messages claim to be from the Department of Motor Traffic and state that fines must be settled within a week for alleged traffic offences.
DIG WPJ Senadira said the Department of Motor Traffic has not issued any such notifications and confirmed that the messages are part of a scam. He urged the public not to open the links or share personal or banking information. Police also advised the public not to respond to the fraudulent messages to avoid becoming victims of online fraud. Anyone who receives or falls victim to the scam has been urged to immediately report the matter to the nearest police station.
The National Action Front has called on the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption to probe the financial activities of companies involved in satellite television and solar panel installation services.
The group has raised concerns over possible money laundering through such businesses and urged authorities to conduct an investigation.
In a letter submitted to the Commission, the organization called for an examination of the company's operations, ownership structures, international dealings and investments to identify any possible financial irregularities. The NAF alleged that some investments made by wealthy and influential individuals through these businesses may not be reflected in the country's income tax system. It called for strict financial audits, particularly into private solar panel installation projects. The organization also alleged that certain individuals linked to these business networks maintain close ties with officials in security and law enforcement agencies. The NAF said it would reveal the identities of business persons allegedly connected to these networks at a later stage. However, the allegations have not been independently verified and no response has been received from the companies concerned or the Bribery Commission.
Updates on the stock market right after this break.
You're watching the Nightly Business Report.
Welcome back. The Colombo Stock Exchange ended today's session on a negative note, with the market turnover indicating 1.03 billion rupees, while total share volume reached 79 million shares. And with that, we have Dilhari Tyres from First Capital Holdings to share more details.
Thank you, Sanuvi. The Colombo Stock Exchange extended a steep decline, weighing on the cautious investor sentiment followed by the Middle East conflict and the resurge in the global oil prices. Both the S&P SL20 and ASPI indices closed the day in red, mostly because of the subdued retail investor participation during the day. Citi Holdings, Commercial Bank, Sampath Bank, Melster Corp and HNB Bank emerged as the top negative contributors to the ASPI index. The top three price losers for the day were SMB Voting Shares, Industrial Asphalt and Taj Lanka Hotels PLC, while the top three price gainers for the day were Odell, Mercantile Investments and Finance and Lankem Developments PLC.
This week's first session ended on a negative note, showing a continuation of decline from the previous week. To give a market forecast for this week, we now join with Shahana Kanagaratnam from First Capital Holdings.
Today we saw the market dipping actually, and the ASPI had actually seen a decrease since what it was seen last week. So this is mainly following the re-escalations in Middle East tensions, and for the week ahead we're expecting investors to remain cautious and the sideways movements in terms of the ASPI. And looking at the turnover numbers, we're expecting it to range between 1 to 2 billion as investors continue to remain cautious. And in terms of foreign activity also, we're expecting investors to remain somewhat cautious as it's most of the direction of the ASPI is mostly being influenced by geopolitical tensions. And also in terms of sectors, we could mainly see investors being keen in terms of defensive sectors, which could include banking, conglomerates, as well as food, beverage and tobacco sectors. And apart from that, the ASPI is also likely to trend mostly in terms of, within the 21,000 to 22,000 range in the week ahead.
Gold prices fell today after renewed U.S. and Iranian strikes and reinforced concerns that a fresh inflation shock could keep the Federal Reserve on a hawkish path, weighing on the appeal of non-yielding bullion. Spot gold fell 1.19% to $4,072.06 an ounce, while gold futures slipped 0.81% to $4,080.22 an ounce, extending losses after the yellow metal shed 1.3% last week. Investors are now awaiting U.S. Consumer Price Index report and the Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh's first congressional testimony for further clues on the interest rate outlook. Other precious metals also declined today. Spot silver fell 2.67% to $58.22 an ounce, while spot platinum indicated $1,618.10 an ounce.
The Sri Lankan rupee marginally appreciated against the US dollar today compared to last week. Now, according to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the selling rate indicated 340 rupees and 48 cents, while the buying rate has also slightly decreased. Now, we can take a closer look as to how the Sri Lankan rupee is performing against other major global currencies. We're heading into a short commercial break. More business updates coming on the other side.
This is a nightly business report. Welcome back to the nightly business report. LOLC General Insurance has introduced WeHelp, a new value-added service designed to provide motor insurance policyholders with expert technical guidance. The new service gives eligible customers direct access to the company's motor engineering unit, where qualified engineers will provide professional advice on a wide range of vehicle-related mechanical and electrical issues.
WeHelp offers expert guidance to help motorists understand problems and make informed decisions. Customers can access the service by contacting the LOLC General Insurance Hotline, where motor engineering specialists assess reported issues and recommend appropriate solutions. If physical assistance is required, customers are connected to the company's roadside assistance network. Speaking at the launch, Chairman and Principal Officer Kitsiri Gunawardana said the introduction of WeHelp reflects the company's commitment to innovation and customer-focused solutions that strengthen trust and confidence among policyholders. Chief Operating Officer Udaya Kumara added that the new service builds on the success of the company's digital claims platform and represents another step towards creating a seamless and responsive motor insurance experience. LOLC General Insurance says the WeHelp reinforces its position as one of Sri Lanka's leading general insurers by delivering comprehensive support throughout the customer's journey, from expert technical advice to roadside assistance.
DFCC Bank has partnered with myfees.lk to strengthen digital payment services across Sri Lanka's education sector, making fee payments more convenient for schools, students and families. The collaboration combines DFCC Bank's digital banking capabilities with myfees.lk's education-focused payment platform to streamline fee collection and improve payment efficiency.
The initiative is expected to help schools, universities, professional institutions and training providers manage payments more securely while reducing administrative workloads. myfees.lk currently supports a wide network of educational providers, enabling faster fee collection, improved financial visibility and more efficient reconciliation processes. DFCC Bank says the partnership reflects the growing demand for accessible and technology-driven financial services as the education sector continues its digital transformation. myfees.lk says its platform is designed to eliminate the challenges of manual fee collection by providing a trusted and seamless digital payment experience.
Alpha Fire Services PLC has announced plans to acquire Icon Engineering Enterprises Private Limited in a 260 million rupee share swap deal. According to a filing with the Colombo Stock Exchange, Alpha Fire will acquire 100% of Icon Engineers' issued share capital by issuing more than 9.1 million new ordinary voting shares to the existing shareholders of Icon Engineering through a private placement.
The transaction values the new shares at 28 rupees and 50 cents each, based on an independent valuation conducted by KPMG. Following the completion of the transaction, the new shareholders will collectively own 19.38% of Alpha Fire Services. The company says the acquisition supports its vision of becoming a comprehensive provider of mechanical, electrical and plumbing or MEP turnkey solutions. By combining Alpha Fire's expertise in fire protection with Icon Engineering's HVAC capabilities, the company expects to improve profitability by around 30% while also strengthening its presence in the Maldives and increasing foreign currency earnings.
Sri Lanka's first zero-commission ride-hailing platform, True launched introducing a subscription-based model designed to increase driver earnings while offering passengers transparent and predictable fares. True allows drivers to retain 100% of their earnings from cash rides by paying a fixed daily subscription based on their vehicle category.
Subscription fees begin at 250 rupees per day for three-wheelers with separate rates for cars, SUVs, vans and lorries. Once subscribed, the drivers can complete an unlimited number of trips without additional commission deductions. For passengers, the platform eliminates surge pricing during peak hours, holidays and periods of high demand. Instead, users are shown the total fare before confirming a booking, with only a standard night surcharge applied after 10 p.m. The platform also introduces TrueMove, Sri Lanka's first zero-commission cargo transportation service, allowing drivers to switch between passenger transport and goods delivery through the same mobile application. TrueRoute further enhances the user experience through referral rewards, loyalty programs, an in-app emergency hotline, a two-way rating system, dispute resolution support, and multiple payment solutions.
FedEx services in Sri Lanka are taking a step towards low-emission logistics with the introduction of electric vehicles to the local pickup and delivery fleet. The initiative has been launched by Advantis Express, the official FedEx licensee in Sri Lanka and a member of the Hales Group.
The move aligns with FedEx's global commitment to achieve carbon-neutral operations by 2040, with electrifying its delivery fleet identified as a key part of that strategy. The development has been supported by Haley's Mobility, which provided expertise in electric mobility solutions and charging infrastructure. The project also aligns with Haley's Group's environmental, social and governance framework known as Haley's Life Code. Speaking on the initiative, Group Management Committee member of Advantis Group, Shamila Bandar, said the focus is on decarbonizing operations where possible and addressing remaining emissions through collaboration and innovation. Advantis Express Chief Operating Officer Asanka Weerasinghe said the company sees further opportunities to expand its electric vehicle fleet as part of its long-term sustainability strategy. The transition reflects a broader trend across the global logistics industry, where companies are increasingly investing in lower emission transport solutions to support environmental goals while improving operational efficiency.
A short commercial break now. Global business updates coming right after this.
This is the Nightly Business Report.
Welcome back to the Nightly Business Report.
Asian stock markets fell today as renewed tensions in the Middle East drove oil prices sharply higher, dampening investor appetite for risk and dragging technology stocks lower.
South Korea's Kospi benchmark dropped more than 5% under renewed pressure, while Japan's Nikkei 225 fell 1.3%. China's Shanghai Composite Index fell 0.7%, while the Shanghai Shenzhen CSI 300 edged 0.3% lower. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index traded largely unchanged. India's Nifty 50 also slipped 0.6%.
Apple sued OpenAI and two former employees alleging misappropriation of its trade secrets to benefit the ChatGPT owner's foray into consumer hardware, a dramatic escalation of already simmering tensions between the two companies.
Apple on Friday sued OpenAI and two former employees, alleging misappropriation of its trade secrets to benefit the ChatGPT owner's foray into consumer hardware. The complaint accuses OpenAI of orchestrating a broad effort to systematically acquire and exploit Apple's confidential information through former employees, recruiting practices, and supplier relationships. Apple alleged that Chang Liu, a former senior system electrical engineer, failed to return a company-issued work laptop. It said Liu later used an authentication bug to access Apple's internal network, downloading, quote, dozens of Apple's confidential hardware-related files. Apple also named in its complaint its former vice president of product design for iPhone and Apple Watch, Tang Yu Tan, now OpenAI's hardware chief. It said Tan had been, quote, methodically using Apple's confidential information to benefit OpenAI before his departure by emailing himself information about Apple suppliers and internal industry summaries. The iPhone maker alleged that Tan encouraged employees to bring parts from Apple to job interviews at OpenAI for, quote, show-and-tell sessions. Neither immediately responded to a request for comment. In a statement, OpenAI said they, quote, have no interest in other companies' trade secrets, and that they, quote, remain focused on building innovative technology that empowers people everywhere.
A notice posted on China's Securities Regulatory Commission website showed fast fashion retailer Shein won approval for its long-awaited Hong Kong IPO, clearing the way for a listing after failed attempts in New York and London.
China approved fast fashion retailer Shein's Hong Kong IPO on Friday. That's what a notice posted on the China Securities Regulatory Commission website showed. It cleared the way for a listing that failed in New York and London. A source said the online retailer had waited a year for permission from Beijing for its IPO, and they added it had to be cleared by the highest levels of the ruling Chinese Communist Party. The source further said Beijing views Shein as politically sensitive and has been wary of the company, causing it further embarrassment. That after a sex doll scandal in France and reports of poor labour practices at its suppliers in China. The source said Shein could aim for a valuation of $40 to $50 billion in its IPO. That would make it far smaller than its main rival Temu's parent company PDD Holdings, which has a $117 billion market capitalisation. But that would make it double the size of retailer H&M. The Swedish company is worth around $24 billion and has lost market share to Shein. The company first filed for a US IPO 2.5 years ago but faced resistance from lawmakers and regulators. Shein turned to London, but Chinese regulators withheld approval. A spokesperson for Shein didn't immediately comment on the approval.
Meta has discontinued its new AI image generation feature just days after its launch. The decision was taken after the widespread criticism over privacy concerns.
The feature known as Muse Image was introduced as part of Meta's AI chatbot and allowed users to generate and edit images using content from public Instagram accounts. However, the tool quickly sparked backlash after users discovered it was enabled automatically, raising concerns over how publicly shared photos could be used by AI. Emmy-winning actor Hannah Einbinder publicly criticized the feature, while the Actors Union SAG-AFTRA urged Instagram users to opt out, arguing that AI tools using personal images should require clear user consent. In a statement, Meta said its goal was to provide a useful creative tool while giving people control over whether their public content should be referenced. The company acknowledged that the feature missed the mark and confirmed it had been removed in response to user feedback. SAG-AFTRA welcomed the decision, saying it was the responsible course of action given the growing risks of non-consensual digital replicas.
TikTok has released its Community Guidelines Enforcement Report for the first quarter of 2026, highlighting the platform's continued efforts to create a safer and more secure online environment through proactive content moderation. Between January and March 2026, TikTok removed more than 441,000 videos in Sri Lanka for violating its community guidelines, representing around 0.5% of all content uploaded to the platform during that period.
TikTok says 99.1% of these videos were identified and removed before users reported them, while 95% were taken down within 24 hours of being posted. More than 20,000 videos were later restored following further review. Globally, TikTok removed over 184 million videos, with the vast majority detected using automated moderation technology powered by AI. The report also shows that more than 237 million comments were removed worldwide, while nearly 86.3 million fake accounts and an additional 25.7 million accounts suspected of belonging to users under the age of 13 were taken down. According to the report, many of the removed videos contained sensitive themes, while others involved dangerous activities and challenges or violations of safety and civility standards. TikTok also increased its efforts to identify and remove edited and AI-generated content that breached its policies.
U.S. investment firm Apollo Global Management announced a $7.7 billion bid for EasyJet, trumping a rival offer from Castle Lake and setting up a potential takeover battle for one of Europe's biggest airlines.
A takeover battle for one of Europe's biggest airlines could be brewing. Apollo Global Management announced a $7.7 billion bid for EasyJet on Friday. The U.S. investment firm's offer outdid a rival bid from Castle Lake. EasyJet said it would support Apollo's proposal and withdrew its backing for Castle Lake. EasyJet and Apollo said in a joint statement the offer delivers a superior outcome for shareholders due to its higher cash value than Castle Lake's bid. It comes just days after the budget carrier had agreed in principle to Castle Lake's offer. EasyJet shares rose as much as 15% in early trading to their highest level in 4 years. Analysts said there are still questions over whether a buyer can satisfy European Union majority ownership requirements. It's a key issue for any non-EU acquisition of a European airline. Apollo said it was committed to taking all necessary steps to secure any merger control and EU subsidies-related clearances needed to complete the deal. Apollo said it plans to keep the airline's key staff to continue EasyJet's strategy of expanding capacity and growing its holidays business. Apollo must announce a firm offer for EasyJet by August 7th or walk away, while Castlelake has until August 3rd. Castlelake didn't immediately respond to a request for comment.
Thank you for watching the Nightly Business Report on Other Derana News channel. Share your events or media releases via email on business@derana.lk.
We will see you again tomorrow with the latest updates in the business globe. I'll see you shortly from Other Derana Sports Central. I'm Harshana Sooriyapperuma.
And I'm Sunny Mudanayaka. Have a good night.